In today's video, we're going to be comparing the AoChuang GTS M 5x5 with the Qi Valk 5M 5x5. So let's get started. So how we're going to compare these cubes is where for each cube, we are going to give them, I guess you could call it a grade in each category. It will be a number from 1 to 10 in each of the three categories, and the three categories are performance, feel, and how it affects my times. So let's get started in this comparison. So we'll start with the performance of these two cubes, and we'll also start with the AoChuang GTS M 5x5. So for the corner cutting of this cube, it can do one piece pretty comfortably, but once you reach like 1.5 pieces or maybe even 2 pieces, it sort of just does this thing where it doesn't really work that well. So corner cutting is okay. It's not phenomenal by any means, but I guess it is a 5x5, so you can't expect a whole lot. So when it comes to turning layers on this cube, there is one minor problem in my mind. The outer layers turn relatively quick, and obviously all the outer layers turn the same speed. But that being said, the inner layers are substantially slower. I'm not sure if this is just because of the way that I set the puzzle up. If you're curious how I did that, I just used Lubical Silk and DNM37. So I didn't really think that that would be a problem. But ultimately the inner layers are just really sluggish, and it's kind of annoying to be honest with you. So if I had to give this cube a score out of 10 in the performance category, I'd probably just give it like a 7, or we'll say 7.5, just because of the sort of different speed in the different layers, but overall it's really not too bad. So now we'll talk about the performance of the Valk 5M 5x5, and we will start with the corner cutting. So just like the AoChuang, this cube can do about one piece pretty comfortably, maybe a little bit over, but once you reach about 1.5 pieces, it sort of does that same thing, where it's not necessarily like a lockup or a pop by any means, it just sort of doesn't turn. But granted, it is a 5x5, you can't expect a whole lot out of the corner cutting, so ultimately no worries there. Now one thing that I touched on the AoChuang GTS M was that the different layer speeds were not the same. Some of the inner layers were a bit slower than some of the outer layers, but I can confidently tell you that that is not the same case on the Valk 5. I am happy to say that all of the layers turn evenly in speed, so at least there's no discrepancies there. So if I had to give this cube a score out of 10 in the performance category, I would probably just give it a 10. Because ultimately there is really no flaws or anything that sticks out to me. So yeah, we have our first 10 out of 10. So now on to the feel portion of the video, and we will start with the AoChuang GTS again. And so the first thing that I noticed when I first got this cube is that the exterior of the cube is, I don't even really know how to describe it. I guess it's kind of just like bubbly. It seems like each individual cap or piece or whatever is like almost slightly rounded, I want to say. It doesn't do a total justice on camera, and don't get me wrong, it's certainly not a bad thing, but it did take some slight getting used to. Now the other aspect of the feel that's arguably much more important is how it actually churns. So for the outer layers, it's super buttery smooth, no worries there, so I'm not really going to expand too much on the outer layers because there's really nothing wrong with it. But on the inner layers, a lot of times when you're turning or even just doing the parity algorithm, the most common one that everybody knows, just flipping those two edges, it's just really, I guess, kind of scratchy, and there's not a whole lot of smoothness to it, and you can sort of hear it in the sound as well. Like, there's just not a whole lot of smoothness to the inner layers in particular, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does get kind of annoying, so we're probably not going to give it 100% there. So for feel, if I had to give it a score out of 10, just because of that kind of inner layer scratchiness and whatnot, we're probably going to give it about a 7 out of 10. It's not really anything that's that big of a deal, but it's enough to probably deduct a few points. Now from the AoChuang GTS onto the Valk 5. Now, I've had this cube for a few days now. I recently did a unboxing, which I will go ahead and put in the top right corner, as well as in the description if you're interested. But, that being said, this cube is phenomenal in feel, and I would say, like, I can honestly tell you that this cube, as a 5x5, the feel of it tops some 3x3s. And if you have a GAN X or any other GAN cubes, and you have your cube well set up, I would probably compare it to something like that. It's just really smooth and rather quiet as well, and I'll give you a quick listen here. So it's just overall a really quiet cube, and I can't get enough of it turning, and sometimes I'll just like sit down, and before I even go to mix it up, I'll just like do T-perms over and over again because it feels so nice. So I don't really think there's any other assessment needed other than the fact that the feel is seriously incredible. Now, one quick thing that I earlier forgot to mention, and I'm not really sure how I managed to blank on this because it is a pretty important factor, and that's the magnet strengths. So real briefly, I can confidently tell you that both the magnet strengths are fine for me. They're not too strong, they're not too light. On both of them, I have a feeling they're the exact same magnet strength, because on both of them, they feel the same. You can't really feel the magnets a whole lot until you turn slowly. So they are there, but that being said, they're not super prominent, which in my opinion is a good thing. Oh, and real quick, I also forgot to say this earlier, I am going to give the Valk 5 in the feel category a 10 out of 10 because there was literally nothing that I didn't ask for in this cube. It is absolutely phenomenal. Now, the last category of this video is how these cubes affect my times. And so right now we are going to go ahead and do a mean of 3 on each of these cubes. So 3 solves on each, 6 solves in total. And we will see how they do, so I will show that right now. So we just finished the AoChuang GTS M solves, and I did a mean of 3, and the mean of 3 is a 238.97. Ironically, we had 236s, which is kind of rare, I guess. But now we will move on to the Valk 5M. Okay, now for the results. So right there, 238.97 is the mean of 3 for the AoChuang GTS. Now for the Valk 5M, the average of 3 is a 225.92. That is approximately 13 whole seconds faster. So even though it's just 3 solves, I think that says a lot about the way this cube performs. So I don't even have to add up all the points. I know for a fact that the Valk 5 is our winner today. Now, I would just like to point out that does not mean that the AoChuang GTS M is a bad cube, and it is nothing but a bad cube. It is still a great cube, and certainly not bad in any stretch of my mind. But that being said, the Valk 5M does top it. So there you go. There's the result. The Valk 5M is the winner. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see some more cube comparisons, whether it be a 6x6 comparison, a cube comparison, whatever event it might be, just let me know in the comments what you want to see, and just maybe I'll make a video about it. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.